Tip number 2 is credit file. Have an understanding of what your credit file looks like, and a lot of banking apps these days will have some kind of credit scoring report in there that you can have quick access to, but the main ones that we recommend you have a look at are things like Check My File, Experian, Equifax. When I was doing my last mortgage, I actually had both of them just because I noticed an error on one, so I just figured I'd check all bases. They do a free month trial, so you can always cancel further down the line, but it's good to keep an eye on those things. And just double check that there isn't anything on there that is going to throw your mortgage application out of alignment with where your mortgage advisor is expecting it to go. And a good example of that, again, on my own application is a little while back, I noticed on my Equifax report that my mortgage had duplicated. So I was with a lender who had an error on the system, and basically it looked like I had 2 mortgages for the same amount running at the same time. So when I sold my house, one of the mortgages was cleared, but the other mortgage showed that it just remained and it hadn't been paid for months on end. So I had to speak to Equifax, and they had to raise a case with the lender, who then confirmed that the mortgage had indeed been redeemed, and there had to be a notice of correction put onto my report. So where that created a bit of a blip in the application is that the new lender asked for an explanation as to why there had been a notice of correction. So I had to write a letter. And again, if I'd just double checked that a little bit later, it could have completely thrown things out of the water. So in that respect, it is really helpful to have an understanding. And I think a lot of the time, you'll back me up on this. We'll speak to somebody and they'll say, "Yep, everything's fine. Never missed any payments. Everything's good." And then you have a look at the credit file, and there'll be something on there that you think, "What about that one?" Oh yes, no, that was the thing that I did.
It doesn't matter how small it is either. I think that's the other thing to remember is, some people, and I get it, people can be a bit blasé, and that's fair enough. Can think, "Oh yeah, well, I've got, a car loan for this amount, or a credit card that's on 0%, so it doesn't matter," sort of thing. Every little thing does get taken into account with the mortgage. So even if you think it's small, just still declare it to the mortgage broker, because it's going to come up when they do a credit score search. And you'll save yourself and your mortgage broker and the mortgage lender a lot of time and headaches by just getting ahead of that. And like you said, if there's anything that's on there that shouldn't be, doing it as soon as possible, because it's just going to save you a lot of time later on down the application process, basically. So
definitely. And I think often these things aren't a big issue. It's just as long as your advisor gets aware of these things and they can present them in the correct way, they're not an issue. Where it becomes an issue is if your advisor's not aware of these things that might be on your credit report, you're not aware of these things, you end up submitting an application, and the lender quite rightly credit searches you and says, "What about that?" And it almost looks like you've tried to hide something. Then it becomes an issue. So definitely tip number 2, get to know your credit report.